Have you ever been truly ripped off? You know, taken advantage of?
Yeah, every time I get my paycheck.
Well, Lonnie Johnson can relate. He got the sense he was getting gypped by the company in charge of producing his invention, the Super Soaker. But he quickly learned the little guy can win if he puts a Goliath like Hasbro under pressure. Born in 1949, Lonnie Johnson was always intrigued by how things work. He received a master's in mechanical engineering from Tuskegee University in Alabama. From there, Lonnie worked as a nuclear engineer for the United States Air Force. He also worked for NASA in their jet propulsion labs. While at NASA, he helped develop the Galileo spacecraft, which studied Jupiter and its moons. He worked on the Cassini space probe that studied Saturn and its rings. In the Air Force, he developed components for the stealth bomber. Lonnie holds over 100 patents for his inventions, but the one he's best known for came about by accident in his bathroom.
None of my bathroom accidents ever led to an invention.
Not the same kind of accident, man. You see, in 1982, Lonnie was working on developing a heat pump that used water instead of Freon. Freon works in heat pumps by compressing and expanding to move heat around. It does the job well, but it's toxic in small spaces if it leaks. It will quickly suck the oxygen out of a small room. No oxygen is not ideal. So Lonnie figured that heating water into steam would create pressurized water vapor that could replace the potentially toxic gas Freon. But while pressurizing the water, the valve on his pump opened up and sprayed water in a stream across the room. And just like that, our summers changed forever. Describing that moment, Lonnie said, "It shot across the bathroom and hit the wall. I thought, now that's fun." He went to work building a prototype water gun out of PVC, acrylic tubing, and a 2-liter soda bottle. It used the same principle as his water pump, pressurizing the water in the 2-liter bottle and blasting it out of the tube. It worked great. Trouble was, no toy company wanted to license his idea and produce it. He spent most of the 80s trying to find a partner to make his water blaster, with no success. Finally, he found a company that saw the potential, Laramie Corporation from Philadelphia. Unlike the other companies, Laramie saw more than just a squirt gun. They saw an entirely new category of toy. Lonnie's prototype was functional, sleek, and way more fun than any other water toy on the market. Laramie launched the water gun in 1989 under the name Power Drencher. Sales languished at first, so they rebranded it as the Super Soaker. They went on a marketing blitz in true 90s fashion. The marketing worked, and every kid at the time wanted one.
The Super Soaker 50 from Laramie.
Those were so much better than regular water guns.
Indeed, I loved mine. Over the next 2 years, sales took off, generating over $200 million in retail sales. By the mid-90s, nearly every kid on my block had a Super Soaker of their own. It was one of the top 20 best-selling toys in history. Super Soaker's success caught the eye of Hasbro, and in 1995, they bought Laramie outright just to get their hands on Lonnie's brilliant water blaster.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's about when the trouble started for Lonnie. He had a licensing agreement in place with Laramie, and that transferred over to Hasbro with the acquisition. Under this licensing deal, Lonnie was owed a percentage of each sale for any products that used his patented technology. His licensing agreement covered any future products that used his pressurization system, not just the shape or the name of the Super Soaker. So that meant that Hasbro couldn't just tweak the design a little bit and call it their own.
I know you hate that company.
Yeah, quick aside. I hold a certain disdain personally towards Hasbro as someone who used to own a board game store. They have a storied history of leaving the little guy in the lurch. Anyway, Lonnie started noticing his royalty checks shrinking despite booming sales for the Super Soaker. Hasbro was selling more than Laramie ever did, and his tech was being used in several new products. But he knew he needed real proof, not just a gut feeling that he was being ripped off. In his words, "I'm an engineer. If the numbers don't add up, you dig until they do." So he exercised a contractual right built into his licensing agreement to audit Hasbro's financial records. He hired a firm that specializes in royalty audits. They were able to uncover the proof. Hasbro had failed to fully report sales of his Super Soaker, as well as the Nerf N-Strike line that used a similar pressurization tech as his. These unreported figures spanned years, and the missing royalty amount was in the tens of millions of dollars. Smoking gun in hand, Lonnie filed a breach of contract lawsuit against Hasbro. In 2013, in order to avoid a lengthy trial which likely would have led to other inventors demanding a similar audit, Hasbro chose to settle with Lonnie for $73 million. This represented unreported royalties. It also included the cost of the royalty audit, and it covered other damages. Lonnie slayed the giant. He was paid what was owed to him and used part of that settlement money to expand his Johnson STEM Activity Center in Atlanta, which still operates today. Lonnie Johnson showed the world how inventors can be taken advantage of by the very corporations who produce their products. If an inventor doesn't exercise their right to audit, they'll get squeezed out of millions of dollars.
Man, with a move like that, Hasbro never stood a chance.
Yeah, and speaking of brilliant moves, next time I'll show you how a world chess champion flipped the board on Netflix. They thought they were making a hit show with the Queen's Gambit, but they accidentally opened with the wrong move, underestimating a real chess queen.